p.m.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's May Day in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Guinea-Bissau President Sissoko Embalo announces the conduct of the nation's presidential election between October and November 2025. An Air Force strike in Nigeria kills at least 16 people, including local vigilantes and residents in Zamfara State.
The National Assembly, what we need to do now is to know precisely what is the source of this. The section of the populace takes it as a mistake on the side of the military. The section of the populace takes it as it's not a mistake.
Calls for Musa Shangari's release intensify amid charges in Niger. And the Gambian government reaffirms its commitment to transitional justice as it completes 16 recommendations with work on 190 others in progress.
16 out of the 263 recommendations have been fully implemented. 192 of the 263 recommendations are ongoing.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners within and outside the sub-region. This edition begins in Guinea-Bissau, where President Umaro Sissoko Embalo has declared that his 5-year term will end on September 4, 2025. He affirmed that the presidential election will be held between October and November in accordance with the laws of the country. In accordance with the laws of the country, the election must be held between October and November. He stated this during an address to the press in Bissau. The president also said that anyone who disagrees with the decision could appeal to the Supreme Court of Justice. He also confirmed that legislative elections would take place this year without giving specific details on the dates. However, the legislative elections will also take place this year according to the law. To some security matters, in Nigeria, at least 16 people, including local vigilantes and residents, were killed in an airstrike by the Nigerian Air Forces in Tungankara, Marandom local government area of Zamfara State, northwestern region of the country. In this report, WADR's Usman Umar says eyewitnesses reported the airstrike occurred shortly after armed bandits raided the area and fled.
The victims, mainly members of the Zamfara Community Protection Guard, were reportedly defending their community when they were struck. A local lawmaker, Maharazu Salisu Gado Faru, confirmed the incident to local TV station, describing it as accidental and noting that the exact death toll remains unconfirmed. The airstrike coincided with Operation Fansanyama, a military offensive targeting bandit strongholds in Zamfara. Earlier, the Nigerian Air Force reported success in neutralizing bandits and rescuing kidnapped victims as part of the operation. Isiaka Buega, a federal lawmaker and member of the Defense and Security Committee, says the National Assembly would have to investigate the root cause of the incident before apportioning blames.
The National Assembly, what we need to do now is to know precisely what is the source of this. Because from the media reports, while a section of the populace takes it as a mistake on the side of the military. I was going through, there were some reports where the Chief of Defense Staff said that it's not a mistake, that those people were harboring, some of these Lakurawa, and such bandits. I think the important thing is for us to get to the root of it so that we know precisely what happens.
This tragedy adds to a series of accidental airstrikes in Nigeria, including a December 2023 bombing in Sokoto State that killed dozens and a 2017 airstrike on a displaced persons camp in Ran, which left over 100 civilians dead. Concerns continue to mount over civilian safety during military operations in the region. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
On more security matters, the African Union AU has condemned a terrorist attack in northern Benin that claimed the lives of several soldiers near the border with Niger and Burkina Faso. The attack, which targeted a strategic military post, has highlighted the region's growing vulnerability to extremist violence. While initial reports revealed that 35 soldiers were killed in the deadly assault, the Beninese army, in a statement, gave a revised figure of 28 fatalities. Imo Edit has the details.
The targeted military post, a key part of Operation Mirador, a mission aimed at combating jihadist insurgencies in the region, was overrun by assailants in the violent assault. Responsibility for the attack was claimed by the Group for the Support of Islam and Muslims, JNIM, an Al-Qaeda affiliate, which alleges that over 30 soldiers were killed. However, Beninese security officials have confirmed 28 fatalities. Condemning the attack via ex-chairperson of the AU Commission, Mustafa Muhammad, described it as reprehensible, with a reiteration of the continental body's commitment to support member states in their fight against terrorism. He also called for collective effort to address the rising tide of extremism in the region and expressed his condolences to the families of the deceased and Benin as a whole. In response to the attack, Benin's military is reportedly reorganizing its forces and planning a proportionate response.
Imo Edit reporting there. Now, here in Senegal, the Public Prosecutor's Office of the Financial Judicial Pool suspects money laundering activities estimated at more than 100 billion CFA francs. The court announced the imminent opening of a judicial inquiry as part of a vast investigation. According to the Ministry of Justice, the reports that are currently being processed pinpoint several personalities for alleged acts of criminal association, money laundering, corruption, among others. The announcement was made in a press release published on yesterday evening. The Public Prosecutor's Office of the Judicial Pool will soon open a vast investigation regarding that. The jurisdiction suspects money laundering activities, the provisional value of which is estimated at more than 125 billion CFA francs. In the note, the court says it has been notified of several reports by the National Financial Information Processing Unit, reports currently being analyzed, which, I quote, highlight serious facts involving several individuals. These include, among other things, alleged acts of criminal association, money laundering, fraud involving public funds, corruption, influence, peddling, and misuse of corporate assets. According to the document, sophisticated money laundering mechanisms were adopted in order to conceal the origin of the funds involved.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's now take you to the Central Sahel region, particularly Niger, where calls for the release of activist Musa Shangari continue to grow. The Nigerian human rights defender was charged a week ago with intelligence with enemy powers, undermining national defense and promoting terrorism. Nadia today has the details from WADR's Niamey correspondent Mutala Zaburu.
After spending a month in police custody, Musa Changarai has been held for the past 10 days at the Filinge prison, located 180 kilometers from the capital, Niamey. The activist, who serves as the Secretary General of Alternative Espace Citoyen, a Nigerian civil society organization, is accused of collaborating with enemy powers, undermining national defense, and promoting terrorism. He had recently criticized the human rights situation in Niger since the military took over. Since his arrest on December 3, 2024, many have called for the release of the human rights defender. A representative of Transparency International Niger, a civil society organization fighting corruption, in defense of Musa Changarai, said he did not belong to the prison. According to him, Musa Changarai has devoted his whole life to defending the minorities and even taught human rights at the Nigerian police school. In a statement published before his indictment on January 3, civil society actors, academics, and unionists called for his release. In their statement, they condemned his arbitrary arrest and the violation of his freedom of expression.
That was our Niamey correspondent Mutala Zaburu's report, voiced by Nadede Tete. Crossing over to neighboring Mali, where the 48-hour visit of Sudan's transitional president, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, concluded on Sunday. The discussions during his visit centered on strengthening military cooperation between the two nations. Bamako and Khartoum have now agreed to deepen their ties across several sectors. Christopher Teacher reports.
This friendly visit by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan to Mali served as an opportunity for the two countries facing security crisis to share experiences. Bamako and Khartoum committed to enhancing their collaboration not only in military matters but also on diplomatic fronts. Sudanese transitional president Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has been speaking.
We are two brotherly nations living in a troubled region. We share commonalities. We have joint projects and, most importantly, a vision for our continent which is suffering greatly. We have also discussed our cooperation and mutual support within regional and international organizations. In a turbulent world, we have a duty to stand by each other.
During the discussions, President Goita and al-Burhan agreed to collaborate in economic development, air transport, and the mining sector. A joint commission will soon be established to bring the partnership to fruition.
Christopher Teacher with the details of our Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham's report. Away from the Sahel, the Gambian government has reaffirmed its commitment to transition and justice, stepping up efforts to implement the recommendations of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission. To date, 16 recommendations have been fully implemented, with over 190 out of the 263 currently in progress. This renewed momentum follows ECOWAS' approval of a special tribunal, a decision championed by President Adama Barrow after leading the campaign among his colleagues, heads of state. From Banjul, Sankula Janko tells us more.
The implementation of over 190 out of 263 recommendations made by the Gambia's Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC, is underway, with some already fully implemented. This was disclosed by Ida Pearson, Special Advisor on Post-TRRC Matters at the Ministry of Justice.
16 out of the 263 recommendations have been fully implemented. 192 of the 263 recommendations are ongoing.
Ms. Pearson acknowledged the government's progress in implementing the recommendations but urged patience, citing inherently slow nature of the process.
We'll do our best to really implement as quickly as we can by 2027, but in reality, this is also a long-term process. We should allow the process to also take its course.
Concerns about the political will to fully implement the TRRC recommendations have been raised over the years. Addressing these concerns during a town hall meeting, Attorney General and Minister of Justice Dauda Ejalo reaffirmed the government's commitment to the transitional justice process. The Justice Minister emphasized that President Adama Barrow has never interfered in their work. He highlighted the President's advocacy efforts, particularly in championing the campaign for ECOWAS's approval of a special tribunal for the Gambia after an initial rejection by the ECOWAS Parliament.
He is giving us all the support. One of the evidence of that support is just the recently approved establishment of the special court. The President was in the forefront of the campaign. He was calling his colleague heads of state. He was meeting with them and ensuring that he galvanized all the necessary support to ensure that that issue goes through.
Following ECOWAS heads of state's approval of a special tribunal in December 2024, the Gambia will work closely with the regional body to prosecute perpetrators, including former President Yahya Jammeh, for human rights violations committed in the country from July 1994 to January 2017. For Newslink in West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankula Janko reporting from Banjul.
Cote d'Ivoire is just months away from its presidential election, and candidates are beginning to declare their intentions. However, all eyes are on President Alassane Ouattara, who continues to keep his candidacy shrouded in uncertainty. Recently, during a New Year's greeting ceremony with the diplomatic corps, he stated that as of that day, he had not yet decided whether to contest. But how are Ivorians reacting to this statement? Francis Boniface reports.
On the streets of Abidjan, reactions to President Ouattara's remarks are mixed. For some Ivorians, his willingness to continue serving the country is welcome news.
If he is in good health, we have no objections. He should continue. Anyone who wishes to run, as long as they are in good health and capable of serving, is welcome to do so. Besides, everything he has accomplished so far has been commendable. We can't be certain that whoever replaces him will do better. For this reason, we encourage him to continue. What everyone desires most is peace.
The president's declaration that he is in good health to continue is good news for us. We fully support him. Thanks to his leadership, Côte d'Ivoire has transformed. Those who knew the country before now find it unrecognizable. What we want is peaceful elections, free from violence. Above all, we want peace.
Others are convinced that this is a clear indication that the president intends to run for a fourth term. However, they feel it's time for Alassane Ouattara to hand over power to the younger generation.
There are likely still some factors that need to be finalized. While the constitution allows him to run, I believe it's time for him to pass the torch to the younger generation. Leaders must know when to step aside. It's crucial for him to leave on a high note. I hope President Alassane Ouattara will hand over to someone else.
With less than 10 months to the presidential election, Alassane Ouattara has yet to officially announce his candidacy. Meanwhile, the opposition is gearing up for the race. Former Presidents Laurent Gbagbo of the PPSCI and Pascal Affi-N'Guessan of the FPI have already been endorsed as their party's flag bearers. At the PDCI, financier Tijan Thiam is widely expected to represent the party, with a final decision to be made at an upcoming convention.
Francis Boniface with the details of our Abidjan correspondent Albin Adet's report. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Guinea-Bissau President Sissoko Embalo announces the conduct of the nation's presidential election between October and November 2025. An Air Force strike in Nigeria kills at least 16 people, including local vigilantes and residents in Zamfara State. Calls for Musa Shangari's release intensified amid charges in Niger. And the Gambian government reaffirms its commitment to transition and justice as it completes 16 recommendations with work on 190 others in progress. Still ahead, we have a press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's quickly take you to Ghana, where former President Nana Akufo-Addo has come on criticism for the last-minute decision to suspend diplomatic relations with the Shawari Arab Democratic Republic. For the last 45 years, since 1979, Ghana has maintained diplomatic ties with the Sahara Arab Democratic Republic. Speaking to WADR International Relations Analyst and a former Assistant Director of the Legal Department of Ghana's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Oliver Bako Vamoa urged the new administration to take steps and restore Ghana's long-standing relations with the Democratic Republic of the Sahara Arab.
The decision by the former Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo on the eve of leaving office to unilaterally end Ghana's recognition of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic raises serious concerns, I think, on several grounds. You can think about it both on the legal, democratic, even diplomatic and historical grounds. Constitutionally, I think the decision flies against some of Ghana's key constitutional principles. It is true that the Ghanaian constitution, for instance, places foreign policy decisions under the executive's purview. However, it does so with clear constraints to safeguard democratic accountability. And so major foreign policy shifts, especially those with lasting implications, require consultation with Parliament under Article 75 of the Constitution, or at the very least with the Council of State. This unilateral decision bypassed several of these essential institutions and thus undermining constitutional checks and balances.
Many have talked about the timing. Why is the timing of the decision considered problematic?
The decision at this time and the circumstances under which it was made highlights what I consider to be bad faith governance. in that the timing of the decision, which was a day before the former president left office, raises serious questions about the intent, because it imposes this decision on the incoming government, deliberately limits. Diplomatic decisions with far-reaching implications demand national debate and input from multiple stakeholders. Yet here we have a decision to end over 40 years of recognition of the SADR, and this was made without any public discussion, without any parliamentary input, without any engagement with civil society, academia. So this is clearly going to be interpreted as taking a side and taking a move, and definitely going to undermine any mediation role or peace builder role that Ghana might be interested in playing.
What do you expect the new government to do about this situation?
It is important that the new government, despite the risk of diplomatic fallout, takes a clearer stance and a more ethical stance on this issue.
That's Oliver Bako-Vomawa, an international relations analyst.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Let's return to Abuja, Nigeria's capital, and join Usman Umar for the press review.
We'll begin with the Punch newspaper, and it's leading with this banner story: serial outages. Dangote, Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Total, 247 firms dump distribution companies, generate 6,500 megawatts. And two riders there. One says operators blame poor supply for move. And then the second one, federal government laments exit from national grid. And above the masthead, you have a raft of other stories. People's Democratic Party, that is Nigeria's major opposition party, factional secretaries set for showdown, vow to resume today. Last Friday, reports emerged of two factional national secretaries for the opposition party, and both are set to resume duty today. And then we move quickly to the Guardian newspaper, and the Guardian is leading with this story: road to $1 trillion economy. Nigeria toes EU's path, integrates $146 billion shadow economy in GDP plan. And there is an infographic there that justifies this very headline by the Guardian newspaper. And then Vanguard newspaper is our next stop, where it says Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries quota eludes Nigeria amid rising oil output. Quite a number of riders to this particular story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Of course, let's just take a look at some of them. This one says, while oil output rises, Lokbobri, that is Minister of State for Petroleum, is talking there. And Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited says security agencies have uncovered 33 illegal oil connections. And then finally, from this story, investors to go for new oil, gas assets. Defenders, First News is saying here. And that's the much we can take on this segment of Press Review as I hand you back to the studios.
Thank you, Usman Umar, for the press review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment this afternoon takes us back to Nigeria, where at least 16 people, including local vigilantes and residents, were killed in an airstrike by the Nigerian Air Force in Zamfara State. Eyewitnesses reported that the airstrike occurred shortly after armed bandits raided the area and fled the scene. Damilare Ebenezer is a Nigerian security expert. He speaks about the situation.
There is no such thing as a clean war where there is no collateral damage, especially if you decide to use area assets to suppress the enemy. There are going to be collateral damage. As the senior Nigerian military officials recently said, we have passed a situation where we can pretend that there were not going to be collateral damage. The communique of the Nigerian Air Force is how to minimize that. in a subsequent airstrike. But we have to be realistic. When you decide to launch a strike, you're likely going to kill the terrorist or the bandit, but you also are going to eat some of the innocent that are in the vicinity. It's regrettable, but this is the situation where we are now in the country today.
Mr. Ebenezer, this tragedy adds to a series of accidental airstrikes in Nigeria, including some part of December 2023 bombing in Sokoto State that killed dozens of people. Going back to 2017 airstrike that also displaced persons in camps. Does it mean that the Nigerian armed forces doesn't have control in terms of its attack towards bandits?
Oh, no, clearly they got very credible intelligence that the bandits were in those places before the army conducted the airstrike. There is no such thing as a clean airstrike in military, especially when you are targeting areas where civilians are also living. So there are two possibilities. Is either the army decide not to intervene, and sometime in case, I guess the decision to strike was because they identify high value targets in those places. And the army had, the options are bad, really. If you get to a point where you have to launch an airstrike on your own territory, we should move away from the belief that the army is able to do that while sparing the civilian.
Does this mean that the Nigerian armed forces is losing the battle against bandits when it comes to fighting via the land?
No. We're not in that situation. The situation in the north is not that. And in fact, that is why the army chose the option of airstrike. These are mobile bandit groups that are not ready to confront the army in a conventional warfare where you have one army against the enemy. They are mobile, and the only way you can surprise them is to be able to intervene and strike even when they are on the run. Unfortunately, they have decided to use the civilian as a way of protecting themselves against such attack. This is what we are dealing with here now.
Damilare Ebenezer is a Nigerian security expert. And here is Sankule Janko with sports.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The penultimate round of the CAF Champions League saw thrilling encounters across all groups over the weekend, with quarterfinal spots secured and intense battles setting up dramatic final match scenarios. Reigning champions Al Ahly advanced to the quarterfinals of the CAF Champions League with a 3-1 victory over Stade Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire. Forward Imam Ashour's hat-trick was enough to secure qualification for the Egyptian Giants. The group's top spot will be decided when Pirates face Al Ahly in Cairo on the final match day. Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates defeated CR Belouizdad 2-1 to top Group C with 11 points and reached the quarterfinals. Esperance Tunis and Pyramids FC confirmed their places in the quarterfinals with narrow wins. Esperance beat Malian side Joliba 1-0, while Pyramids edged Sagrada with the same scoreline. FAR Rabat and Mamelodi Sundowns booked their quarter-final places from Group B. FAR Rabat held Raja Casablanca to a 1-1 draw, while Sundowns defeated Miniama Union 2-1 in a dramatic encounter. Matchday 5 results are as follows in Group A: MC Alger 1, TP Mazembe 0, Al Hilal 0, Young Africans 1. In Group B, Maniama 1, Mamelodi Sundowns 2, FAR Rabat 1, Raja Casablanca 1. In Group C, Orlando Pirates were 2-1 winners against CR Belouizdad, while Stade Abidjan were defeated 3-1 by Al Ahly. In Group D, Esperance Tunis 1, Joliba 0, Sagrada 0, and Pyramids 1. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek, Umu Danyogo, and Sheikh Njai for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. At 1 p.m., Demba Amaan will be here with the news in French, which is Info Chevu. Coming up next is WADR's health program, Well Body. I am Augustine Kali. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0.